There is a point after shoulder surgery when the question begins to change. Early on, you are mostly thinking about protection. You're thinking about the sling, the restrictions, the incision, the pain, and whether you might accidentally do something you should not be doing. But later, another question begins to appear. What if I never feel confident in this shoulder again? Your surgeon may say the shoulder is progressing. Your therapist may tell you the motion is improving. You may be doing exactly what you were told. And yet, when you are getting dressed, reaching into a cabinet, or thinking about returning to something you enjoy, you still hesitate. That hesitation may look like caution, but over time, it can become something else. I'm Dr. Dan, an orthopedic surgeon specializing in shoulders. Now, this is where people lose progress. If you do not understand this phase, you can misread what your shoulder is telling you. That is why you need the Shoulder Recovery Guide. Its link is in the description below. One of the most common assumptions after shoulder surgery is that confidence will return automatically. The shoulder heals, the pain improves, the motion returns. And eventually you simply trust it again. But confidence does not always follow the medical timeline. Sometimes the shoulder is moving forward while confidence is quietly falling behind. Confidence is built by understanding what you are feeling, making a reasonable decision, and seeing what happens next. Without that process, a pull while dressing, soreness after sleep, or weakness during a light reach can feel like evidence that the shoulder is still fragile. Those moments do not automatically tell you what is happening, but each one forces a decision. Do you keep moving? Do you stop? Do you protect the shoulder more? Do you assume you did something wrong? That is where confidence is either rebuilt or slowly eroded. The misconception is that more caution always creates more safety. Caution feels responsible because you were warned not to overdo it. So when something feels uncertain, the safest response seems obvious. Do less, protect more, wait longer. But there is an important difference between following restrictions and allowing fear to make every decision. Restrictions are specific. Fear is not. A restriction may tell you not to lift a certain amount or not to advance an activity before a certain stage. Fear may tell you not to reach for a coffee mug because the movement feels weak. Fear may tell you to keep your elbow glued to your side even after you have been allowed to use the arm more normally. You can follow the official instructions and still develop habits that make the shoulder feel less trustworthy. Consider getting dressed. You may be allowed to use the arm in a limited way, but you avoid it completely. You twist your body, lift the shoulder, and let the opposite arm do the work. After several weeks, you may no longer know whether you are protecting the shoulder because you need to or because you are afraid to use it. The movement stays awkward because it never becomes familiar, reinforcing the belief that the shoulder is not ready. That creates a quiet loop. Avoidance creates unfamiliarity. Unfamiliarity creates hesitation. Hesitation feels like danger, and the feeling of danger creates more avoidance. So here's the first decision moment. Do you keep protecting the shoulder, test it because you are tired of waiting, or pause and interpret what is driving the hesitation? Continuing to protect it may deepen the habit of guarding. Testing it aggressively may create more soreness and uncertainty. Pausing requires you to ask whether the limitation is coming from a restriction, a meaningful symptom change, weakness, unfamiliarity, or fear. Most people are never given a consistent way to sort through those possibilities. This is what happens during the roughly 166 hours each week when you are not with your surgeon or therapist. Your medical team may be helping you, but they are not beside you when you reach into the refrigerator or wake at 2 in the morning with a shoulder that feels different. No one is really guiding you through this part. That does not mean your medical team has failed you. Standard care cannot realistically cover every daily decision. You may spend an hour or two each week in appointments or therapy. The rest of recovery happens at home. That is where you decide how to sleep, dress, move, reach, rest, respond to soreness, and interpret change. Together, those decisions create the experience of recovery. This is where the clinical versus life success gap becomes important. Clinical success is what can be measured in the medical setting. The incision is healed, the repair appears protected, your motion and strength are progressing. Nothing suggests an obvious problem. But life success is whether you trust the arm enough to use it during ordinary tasks. It is whether you can put on a jacket, reach for a plate, or imagine returning to golf, work, travel, or normal sleep without feeling that the shoulder must be protected every second. A shoulder can progress clinically while daily life still feels uncertain. Everything may look good, yet you still think like someone whose shoulder is constantly at risk. That is when the compensatory cascade can begin. You protect the shoulder, so you move differently. You lift the shoulder, tense the neck, twist the torso, and rely on the opposite arm. Those adjustments can create neck tightness, upper back pain, fatigue in the other shoulder, and more stiffness in the recovering shoulder. Now you have more symptoms to interpret, making the original shoulder feel even less reliable. The cascade does not mean you ruined the repair. It means protective decisions may be creating secondary problems that are difficult to separate from recovery itself. So here's the second decision moment. Do you avoid the activity, force yourself through it, or change the way you are judging whether the shoulder is ready? Avoiding every uncertain activity may reduce anxiety temporarily. Forcing yourself through an activity may ignore restrictions or signals that matter. Changing how you judge readiness requires a framework. Before changing what you do next, ask 4 questions. Is this activity within my current restrictions? Is this symptom meaningfully new, worsening, or different from the recent pattern? Is the hesitation coming from pain, weakness, unfamiliarity, or fear? What happened the last time I made a similar decision? Those questions will not produce a perfect answer every time. They give you a repeatable way to slow the reaction down. Most people do not have a consistent way to judge what a sensation means or what to do next. That is the system gap. It is not a lack of intelligence, discipline, or motivation. Most patients are trying very hard to do the right thing, but effort does not automatically create good decisions. You can follow every printed instruction and still not know how to apply it to a situation that was never listed on the page. You can attend every appointment and still spend most of the week guessing. Without a repeatable process, decisions are made according to whichever feeling is strongest. A good day creates confidence, so you do more. A sore day creates fear, so you pull back. A reassuring appointment makes you think you should be almost normal. An awkward movement makes recovery feel fragile again. That inconsistency makes it difficult to understand cause and effect. It also keeps confidence dependent on reassurance. You wait for the next appointment, you feel better temporarily, then another unfamiliar sensation appears and the uncertainty returns. The reassurance did not fail, it simply did not give you a consistent way to interpret the next decision. Confidence is not the absence of every uncomfortable sensation or the belief that nothing could go wrong. It is the ability to face an uncertain moment and understand how to think through it. Reassurance says, you are okay right now. A decision framework helps you ask, what should I pay attention to when the next uncertain moment appears? Recovery is full of variation. The shoulder may feel better one day and tighter the next. Sleep therapy or a new movement may temporarily change how it feels. Those changes do not all mean the same thing. If every change is treated as proof that the shoulder cannot be trusted, confidence may keep falling, even as healing moves forward. Waiting to feel completely confident before you begin trusting the shoulder can become a trap. Confidence often does not arrive first. Understanding comes first. Then a reasonable decision, then observation, then another decision. Confidence grows from that sequence, not from pushing recklessly, not from ignoring restrictions, and not from waiting for the shoulder to feel perfectly normal before you participate in your own life. The shoulder recovery method is a structured way to think through recovery decisions. Think of it as an insurance policy against the mistakes that happen when you are guessing between appointments. You may not be lacking courage. You may be lacking a consistent way to interpret uncertainty. Until that gap is addressed, the shoulder may continue making medical progress while your trust in it keeps falling behind. So when you notice yourself hesitating, do not automatically assume the hesitation proves the shoulder is unsafe. But do not ignore it either. Ask what is driving the decision. Is this a restriction? Is this a meaningful symptom change? Is this weakness? Is this unfamiliarity? Or is this a habit of protection that no longer matches the stage of recovery? The answer may not always be obvious. That is exactly why the decision matters. If you want to understand why the recovery timeline can feel slower and more discouraging than expected, watch Why Recovery Feels So Slow After Rotator Cuff Repair. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next Thursday.